mapping, a custom MIDI mapping for our little drum kit here. This is where this session starts now. We got our routing ready. We got everything that we need for mixing. Or I can grab a little bit into the future. We're lacking of 2 additional reverb buses here in my DAW, but this is something we can add later. First, we want to establish this basic drum tone, the sound, and the volumes that we really want to have in our mix. Reverb is just an addition to that to give the drum kit some space, some room, and basically some awesomeness in the end for the mix, you know. And for that, let's open up the Superior Drum plugin. And now, what I like to do, many people go ahead and adjust volumes of their microphones within the input tracks here. I usually don't like to do that. I usually go ahead and adjust my volumes of the drum kit or the drum parts on my buses, except the case that I'm not able to to go for a Metal Foundry amp here. If this bus consists out of 3 microphones and one of the microphones is too loud or too quiet, sure, I have to adjust the microphone volume. So let's go ahead and start to mix things properly here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the volumes of each input microphone that I use to 0 dB. I'm gonna need my cheating plugin here, because I cannot remember all the volume settings. You know, it's so many inputs and so many buses. So I got my original plugin here with my finished and polished drum sound, just to take a brief look every time I need some data that I forgot. But this is usually how you work, you know. You have some kind of preset or some kind of basis where you're working from. You don't fire up a Superior Drummer and you work your way up from scratch. Nobody does that. There is always a preset or a combined preset within Superior Drummer you build your sound on, right? So this is just realistic. Okay, I'm gonna set the levels mostly to 0 dB when it comes to microphone inputs. So let's do that here, the ambience, the overhead, and then we got the metal exclamation mark inputs here. Let's see how I managed that, all to 0. Okay, like this. So we're not making volume adjustments within the input controls here. Then we got the metal exclamation mark, overhead and ambience. Oh, there I did it. I left these 2 on the default values on -12 and -8.3. This is probably because I just forgot. it. The last time I mixed, I forgot to get these 2 tracks back to 0 dB. I just forgot to do that. So usually what I do is the M overhead input microphone here plays through the M, where it is, the MOH here. And usually what I do is I put this input track here, this microphone track, to 0 dB and lower the bus of it to -12. This is usually what I do, because all the volume controls of my drum kit are summed up here in this bus section. So I don't need to fiddle around with single microphone channels or anything. I know if I wanna make volume adjustments, I do it on the bus. And even my output channels are all set to 0 dB. I'm not adjusting output volumes here. I just do it on the bus. So I don't want to change volumes at somewhere at my input microphones. Some other volumes I change on the buses, and some even different volume adjustments I do on my output channels. That makes no sense. I want to have it at one particular place in my plugin, and this is the bus section as far as I'm concerned. Maybe you like to do it differently, and maybe you like to adjust your volumes of your drum parts on the output sections, maybe on the microphone channel. This is something that you have to find out yourself. Just do whatever you like, do whatever you're comfortable with. I'm comfortable with adjusting the volumes on the buses. That's all. And I forgot to do that on the overhead and ambient microphones of the metal exclamation mark expansion. But I'm gonna leave those because otherwise my sound probably gets fucked up. So don't want to do that. All right. So now that our volumes are mostly reset, mostly because I like to do that. Okay, now all our buses and outputs are on 0 dB. So this is our starting point. And this sounds ugly as hell, because if you listen to it now, maybe the cymbals are even louder than before and even more unbalanced. But we got a starting point in our mixer where we can work from. And like I said, adjust the volumes on the buses and you're good to go. So let's do that first. Okay, really fucked up that one. That's okay. So this is our starting point. Everything set to 0 dB, and a Superior Drummer kind of knows why they lowered the default volume of their cymbals a little bit because of that. Because you just get shit out of your speakers. Okay, let's start to adjust this. The first thing is the overhead microphones and everything is way too loud. So I'm gonna look over to my plugin and I'm gonna set my buses to values that I found to sound okay. So the kicks of the metal exclamation mark plugin is lowered to minus 2 dB. The snare goes down, goes up, even up 4 dB. The toms of the Metal Foundry are lowered 1 dB. Then we go ahead to the overhead, to the hats of Metal Foundry. These go down to minus 21.2. Well, that's quite a bunch, but this is an indicator that the Metal Foundry cymbals are mixed freaking loud compared to the snares, kicks, and tom-tom sounds. But this is okay as long as we can deal with it, right? So then we got the overheads of Metal Foundry. These are basically the cymbals. These go down minus 4.6. And then we got the overheads of the metal exclamation mark, which is only capturing the bass drum and the snare drum sound, because we don't use cymbals of the metal exclamation mark expansion. This goes up 1.8. Then we got the ambience microphone of Metal Foundry. This goes down by 20 dBs. Again, this is where all this overhead cymbal sounds are coming from. This is why it gets lowered that much. The ambient sound of the metal exclamation mark expansion I leave at 0 dB here, because this ambient channel, like the metal exclamation mark overhead channel, only captures the snare and the bass drum, because we don't use different parts of the metal exclamation mark expansion in our sound. And we got the compression track. This does nothing at the moment. We didn't assign any input microphones to play through this compression track, but it gets important in the mixing stage, okay? Or in the later mixing stage. We are in the early mixing stage right now. Okay, this goes down for 12 dB. All right. So the output levels are always at 0. Now let's take a listen what this sounds like now. Okay, way more balanced. Let's take a listen on the hi-hats here at the back of the song. Okay, that sounds much better, right? The overheads are not that aggressive. They don't cut your eardrums, right? And it's just a little bit better. So these were just basic volume adjustments that we made. And now it's all about mixing. It's all about shaping the tone. For example, our snare drum sounds a little bit dry and raw. Some people like that, but there is no reverb tail. There is nothing on it. It's just a really raw and dry snare drum sound like this. And if we add in the overheads here and the ambience, let's do that real quick. Only of the metal exclamation mark. This sounds very raw. Like I said, some people like that, but in such a metal track like I usually produce them, I like to have this kind of overcompressed tone where you have this immense attack and not that much sustain. The sustain of a metal snare comes mostly from the added reverb, the room and plate reverb you